Welcome to Second Listen Saturday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share some fun moments from a past episode for your weekend listening pleasure. Look for new episodes every Monday through Friday. Another edition of Judging Other People's Parenting. Could there be a funner game, you guys? Nicole, appropriately to your recent travels, you have our topic here. What is the story to which we are going to cluck and tisk?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, having been on a 15-hour flight, I don't understand how someone could do this to other people. Not to mention their kids. Although I did not see it on my flight personally, but I have heard of these stories before, and my husband has seen it happen. But I was reading an article on Pop Sugar, and it was a mom who flies first class and puts her two boys in economy. And she says that she deserves the first class accommodations because it's a huge treat that she's worked for, and that the money that she saves by not having her kids in upgraded seats goes towards making their vacation much better when they get to their destination. So,
that was my favorite part. Like, the money saving. Like, wait a minute.
I know.
Maybe, how about if you use the money from your first class seat as well? Think how much further that
and make
would
it
go.
better for, all around. I know. So I've never seen this. I don't know if you've seen it in your travels, but I definitely have heard of it. And honestly, I don't understand how, okay, I'm being totally judgy. Maybe there's, good reason for it, but how does one do that? Like, kind of abdicate their responsibility for, a portion of the trip and expect that the kids will either A, look after themselves, or B, the crew will look after them.
What was the age of the kids?
10, no, what do we have here? 10 and 12.
What are the limits for kids traveling by themselves? Would they be old enough to travel by themselves if their mother wasn't on the plane at all?
No.
Oh, travel by themselves, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they were traveling
you would
without
have to
parents,
pay extra. I mean,
Yes.
they would be unaccompanied minors, and you would have to pay for that service.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the thing is that, and I know this from flying fairly often with my kids, there is never a guarantee that you're going to sit with your kid. Like, they assign seats. Mm-hmm. And I have been assigned seats away from my kids. Yeah. And they sometimes will try to fix it, or, we get on the plane and we ask if people want to trade or whatever. But we're talking like a few rows apart, not one is in first class and one isn't. And my kids actually like to sit together and, instead of it being like one parent and one child, and then the other parent and the other child, they would rather be together. And we do that, and it's fine. But again, I'm not 30, 40 rows away. I am fairly close by that I can still be supervising my own kids. So, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think 10 and 12, it's borderline, that they can pretty much mind their own business. But I have to think that these are very long flights that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, she's British, so depending on where they're going.
If you're going to bother paying for first class, like, you're not going to do it for a 45-minute flight, right?
No. But I mean, the thing is, though, is that first class is a whole other world unto itself.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, she would have like, if she's up in first class and her kids are back in economy, it's not like she's...
Oh, yeah.
She's in a whole other world up there. I mean, they make it very separate. And,
yeah,
in addition to the curtain, there's eye masks and, it's just especially if you're in one of those new, like in United, they have the Polaris beds where you can lie back and just have a snooze, and your kids are like 40 rows back. It's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're used to it. I don't know. And see, my kids would not sit together. They would be fighting the whole time. Even now, like when they flew up to Canada, they asked for separate seats. So legitimately, my son was in a row ahead of my daughter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were both in window seats.
They looked so cute and friendly in the picture you put online, but is it like, after that picture, it was like, bye, sis.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on your own.
Pretty much what it was, because after they went through security, they both went their separate ways to go get lunch, and then they came back, boarded the plane, and then got into separate seats. But you know what? It works for them, so...
But he didn't go to first class and leave her in coach, so...
Well, and also, she's not 10 years old.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's true.
I don't know. And I like just, you know, with, traveling is hard in itself, and it's not just about, you know, putting the kids in seats and having them sit there for several hours on their own. There's a certain, you know, form of plane etiquette. And if I'm assuming these kids have probably traveled a lot with their mother, but, you know, there definitely has to be there are definitely some ins and outs of traveling responsibly and not infringing on other people's space. Yeah. And so it makes you wonder if the kids are well versed in plane etiquette. For example, I had did I tell you about the yogi master on my flight coming home?
No.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, we paid for extra money to be in the exit row, and granted, we did get our space most of the time, but at several points during the trip, this man, probably in his late 20s, early 30s, comes over, sits down in front of us, like on the, you know, on the floor, and starts to meditate and do his yoga. So at first I was like, what is, you know, like, excuse me, you're in my space.
Right.
And then my daughter's like, Mom, maybe he has anxiety and this helps him get through the trip. You have to be, you know, you have to think about it from his side and his perspective. You know, maybe this is helping him handle the length of the trip. And I'm like, yeah, but he's like sitting on my feet practically doing his yoga.
Yeah, would she have felt that if he was in her carefully sanitized space?
Exactly.
Excuse me, sir, I just wiped that down.
Yeah.
Please not touch anything.
Can you please get up and move? So that was kind of a bit odd. So
yeah.
Well, Tara, you sounded like you were maybe going to stick up for the first class lady.
I'm always contrarian, right? You know, as with so many things that are fun to be judgy about, we don't really have all the information here. You know, have her kids ever traveled by themselves before? How much experience do they have traveling? Is this the first time they've ever been on a plane? Or are they, like, pretty good independent travelers? You know, there's 10 and 12-year-olds who are more mature on a plane than I am, and there's 10 and 12-year-olds who you would never leave by yourselves.
Right.
So, you know, you don't really know their maturity level, you don't know their issues. I mean, I have kids in their 20s who I wouldn't want to sit away from in a plane because they need a certain level of reassurance and a certain level of help with things. You know, if the plane ever assigned us seats apart from each other when my kids were little, we could never let that stand. We would even call and say, make sure we have seats together because my kids have disabilities. So I wish I knew more about this particular 10 and 12-year-old.
Right.
I have to say I'm not necessarily offended. If they were 3, yeah, that would be a problem. If they were 6 or 7 or 8, yeah, probably that would be a problem. Starting to get to an age where I can conceive of a kid just sitting on an airplane and staring at a screen for 10 hours.
I suppose.
So it seems possible. I think the airline would be absolutely in its rights to charge her the minor flying alone rate, which I bet is hugely less than 2 more seats in first class. So if you want the stewardess to be making sure your kids are okay, pay that little that
yeah,
amount.
but the stewardesses aren't getting any extra money for it.
Well, but I mean, if those kids could fly alone, and you pay what you would pay if those kids were flying alone, then there's an infrastructure set up for that. the fact that you're up there, that's for you to
but the
reconcile with your own soul. You have fulfilled your obligations to the airline and your fellow passengers, I think.
No, not the crew.
Well, again,
on the plane.
Would you say you can never send a 10 and 12-year-old by themselves? If you could send those kids by themselves as unaccompanied minors, then the fact that you were on the plane is a moral quandary for you to deal with, I think. If you feel like 10 and 12-year-olds should never be in coach by themselves at all, ever, then it shouldn't matter whether their parent is with them or not. You know what I mean? There is an infrastructure set up for kids to be by themselves in a plane. That's not a never seen thing. We're just judgy about it because their mother was there and should be suffering in coach with them and the rest of us. But
or bring your kids up to first class.
First class is really nice, man. If I could afford first class, I've been in it a couple of times on somebody else's dime, and sometimes you just need a treat. Come on.
Well, yeah, I mean,
maybe it's a whole moral issue for me.
But I think that it's perfectly justifiable that she should pay whatever people sending kids to fly by themselves should pay. That, I think, is for sure. You don't get to do that for free just because you happen to be on the plane. But past that, I think if our kids are okay,
Yeah, I think it's a borderline age.
It depends a lot on the kid. As we say, all the boring time. Every kid is different. Every parent is different. Maybe she's the kind of parent who sits there and drinks alcohol for 10 hours while her kids do whatever the hell they want, in which case, go back up to first class, lady. So you're not doing us any good here. You don't know about these people. So,
well, the way the article's written, it's very...
Well, it's written to shame.
It doesn't do a good job of explaining the situation.
No.
It definitely paints her in a certain light.
Yes, because details are less fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the article is very let them eat cake. I'm going to be up here in first class because I can afford it, and if you don't like it, it's too bad because you're back in coach, so you really don't have any say in the matter.
But if you ever had I don't know that this is the situation here, but have you ever had the experience of knowing that your kid was capable of doing something that maybe one might not expect a kid of that age to be able to do? As the parent that the kid can do this, and other people are just looking at the number.
Yeah.
So could be the possibility here. She may know that her kids are perfectly fine. It may not be a situation of, I'm sending my hyperactive kids to go tear up the rest of the back of the plane. Bring them to me when we land. Right. Maybe they're okay.
I think maybe if the article had been her saying, guys, I know they're fine, and I know my kids, and this is what works for us, then that would have come off very differently from her just saying, hey, I want to sit in first class, so I'm going to just do that. Because that's the impression she gave.
Yeah. The other thing I thought about this, the article had her quotes from her story, right? And then comments that different people had made, complaining about her and supporting her. I want to know if any of the people who complained have ever spoken out in favor of free-range parenting. These parents these days, they watch their kids too closely. These kids have no freedom. They should be able to run and do what they want. You know what? Put that 10 and 12-year-old right in front of you guys. Right behind you. They're going to kick your seats for 10 hours, but they're independent. They're doing what they want to do. They got freedom. You hear so much about how helicopter parents are ruining the world. But then the first time somebody's kid is there without a parent and inconveniencing these three people, it's like, where's their mother? Why isn't their mother here? Yeah. They shouldn't be here alone. But so you know what? Pick a column.
Even in the days of free range parenting, which was the 70s, I never sat away from my parents on a plane. They were pretty free range parents. But I was I was within arm's.
Did they have an option?
Kind of.
If they could have afforded first class? But no.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, no, maybe. But, no. I don't know. I think it's more of a parenting. Yeah, it definitely is I guess it's how you rationalize it in your mind and your kids.
Yeah. I just wish I had more information. Because if her kids are terrors, then yes, that's an awful thing to do to your fellow passengers. If her kids are pretty well behaved and are just going to sit and look at the movies they've downloaded on their phones or play games or whatever, who cares really?
Okay, well, and this is kind of...
As long as the plane doesn't crash, in which case she's going to wish she was with us.
Well, that's what I was
That's
just
what
gonna
would go
say.
through
This
my
is kind of
mind
the
when I
unspoken
contemplated
issue
it.
here. This is kind of the unspoken part about it, is that
Yes.
there's a reason I like to sit near my kids. And it's not just to keep an eye on them, okay?
You want to be able to say, I love you, as the plane's going down.
Well, no, actually, you know what? When we were heading over to Australia, we were crossing a part of the ocean, and there was extreme turbulence.
Uh-huh.
And even the stewardesses and stewards were buckled in. So you know it's bad when they're not walking around, right? And it went on for a good 20, 25 minutes, and it was extreme. And my daughter was like gripping my hand, and you know, she was she was scared. She was terrified. I admit I was a little bit worried too, but I understand why turbulence happens, and it kind of helps me rationalize the whole thing. But she was scared and was gripping my hand and was like worried and fretting. And so I was there to reassure her. But so then, you know, so that kind of creeps into my mind too. Like, well, what if your kids are scared? What if something happens and you're not there for them? And I mean, they can't get up out of their seat and run to you. I mean, I suppose they could, but
you can't pass that curtain into first class.
It's the sacred curtain to first class.
Do not pass the iron curtain of first class.
Everybody has to stay in their seats. You can't run back to them either.
No.
Ah, well.
So
I can think of some flights where I really wish I could have gone up to first class.
Yeah.
Can I just come sit here for a few minutes? My kids are driving me crazy. They should have like a couple of seats in first class that you can kind of rotate in and out of. Like, you know, you can book 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah, pay by the minute, right?
And you leave your husband with the kids, and you go up and somebody serves you cashews in a golden bowl. And you take a breath, and you wipe your hands on a hot towel, and you go back.
And then you're prepared to go back and face everything.
Just kind of, you know, there's soft music playing, and just refresh yourself. I think airlines ought to look into that. I think they could make a little change doing that. You know,
right? I mean, now
are you feeling stressed? Would you like to sit in first class for 5 minutes?
They charge you for the snack boxes and the drinks and everything. They should charge you for 10-15 minute visit to first class.
I gotta think they'd be able to pick up some. If they have some empty seats in first class, they could pick up a little change doing that. You know. Yep. I'll put it on my credit card. It's a travel expense.
Yeah. Give me 10 minutes of that extra leg room and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Glass of wine in a crystal goblet instead of a plastic cup.